Hello Sycamorians, this is a video working through or going through some tips and tricks for the second daily challenge, the writing challenge of our description. It's here for you to follow along as much as you need to, give you some tips and advice and explain some of those grammar terms we've used in the challenge sheet. I'm basically going to go through each part, each step of the challenge, and just remember that at home, as long as you're doing the first challenge, you can work through the others in your own pace. You don't have to do it all in one day, you don't have to do it all in 1 hour. You can take it in your leisurely pace. Cool. So the very first part of our challenge today is about generating some vocabulary. It's about looking at some pictures, some stimulus pictures, and seeing what you can touch, see, feel, and hear. You should have a choice of 3 pictures. I've gone with the beach already to set myself up. You can also see I've set up on my page part of one of the documents which supports you. It's got some different rich vocab you could use to describe those different senses. And I've put my senses just around the side of the page. You've got a grid that's come out. You don't have to use the grid. You can scribble on top of the picture. You can write notes while you're looking at the picture on the screen, however you want to do it. I just thought I'd provide it for you so that you had it if you needed it. So for that very first task, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at and label the things I can see. So I know that's at the very top here. I've got a shell. I've got sand. I've got blue skies. I've got a crab. I've got a seagull. I've got cliffs. I've got a rusty boat. And already you can kind of see that I'm occasionally adding in a couple of adjectives to these words as I see them. Rusty boat is far more than just putting boat. I'm thinking of a couple of things that might help me. I'm not thinking too hard at the moment. I just want to make sure I'm highlighting things which I think are interesting and things I might want to talk about while I'm doing my description. I quite like this here. That's kind of a marooned, or it could be a broken down. It's kind of like a dinghy, not a rubber dinghy, or a rowboat, I suppose you could say. I've got a shack here. I've got some surfboards. I'm just doing the visual stuff first. It just kind of gets me in the feeling of it. So these are all kinds of things that I put here, really. Those are things I can see. After you've thought about things you can see, you need to think about some of those things you can hear, smell, or touch, or feel. The hearing one is quite straightforward for that one. Think about what things you might hear at the beach. Off the top of my head, I might hear, well, I've seen a seagull, well, maybe I'm going to hear the birds and the seagulls. What kind of sounds are they going to be making? Well, probably squawking. Oh, I can never spell the word squawk. I think that's right. Squawking, I might hear the flapping of wings, for example. Things I can smell, always, 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 when I'm thinking about the sea, I'm thinking the smell of salt, the salty tang on the air. Salty tang on the air. Other things you might smell, well, we've got a shack here. Maybe it is a restaurant. Maybe we're going to smell some kind of scent, some sort of flavour. I've got some words up here that might be helpful. Succulent, tantalising, nauseating, repulsive, scent and fragrance and delightful. So maybe I'm going to smell a delightful smell, something tantalising maybe if they're cooking. So it could be a tantalising smell of frying fish. Cool. Touch or feel. So this one kind of comes under both. So it's thinking about things, you might be describing textures. So you might be thinking about something feels rough or smooth. You might think about the feel of the sand between your toes, whether it feels warm, whether it feels squelchy if you're right by the seashore. You might talk about the wind and the feel of the breeze. Is it going to be a harsh breeze? Is it going to be a biting wind? That's a wind that kind of really chills you to the bone. Think about the feel of the sun that you can feel on your skin. Is it going to feel warm? Is it going to feel comforting? Yeah, so that deals with those sense elements, and that's all I'm asking you to do there. You're starting to add them in. Really make as detailed a picture as you can, I think, and gives you lots of options. You don't have to use everything that you note down, and when you get to your drafting stage, you might discard some things or focus on the ones that really interest you. But the more ideas you've got at the beginning, the more talk, the more vocabulary that you're putting down, the more options you're giving yourself.